What is the most paranormal thing that happened to you or anyone else? 1. I was probably 9 when I caught chickenpox. I woke up in the middle of the night one night and called for my mom because little kids can't do anything for themselves when they're sick. A woman came into my bedroom, sat on my bed and stroked my hair until I fell asleep. For whatever reason, I thought she was my grandmother, but she was dressed funny. When I woke up the next morning, I went downstairs for breakfast and asked where my grandma was. My mom told me she was at her own house, as she always was. I told my mom that she had been in my room the night before. My mom laughed and said I had just been dreaming. However, my aunt, who was more of a believer, was babysitting me that day. The upside to chickenpox was no school for me, and I told her the story. She asked me to describe the weird outfit, and it was an old nurse's uniform from the 60s. My family knew the previous owners of the house. The wife had been a nurse in the 60s and had died a few months prior. Can I say with 100% certainty that I had an encounter with a ghost? No. But it's certainly a bizarre coincidence. 2. When I was a teenager, I was visiting my family in the north of Portugal. With a bunch of friends, we decided to explore a supposedly haunted manor at night. The construction of the manor was halted after multiple fatalities occurred on its premises. The architect and 2 workers died in strange circumstances, local village superstition kicked in, and people were reluctant to ever set foot in there. A couple of years later, one of the family members who wanted to complete the building died on site while assessing the building. Then it was left to rot for decades. Wilderness took over. Vines were covering most of the walls, and the gardens were a jungle of weeds. From a distance, it looked eerie by daylight and absolutely terrifying after sunset. Legends about that cursed mansion were rampant and probably wildly exaggerated. None of us believed in the supernatural, so we basically grabbed a torch and went straight in. What we didn't know was that my older cousin and his older friends overheard our plans to investigate the house by night and decided to beat us there and scare the ever-living shit out of us. They hid in the mansion and, upon our arrival, made sinister noises, moved debris around, created misshapen shadows, and whispered words of terror. With a single torch, it was almost impossible to figure out what was going on, and we were obviously scared shitless. After what seemed like an eternity of torturous fear, my cousin revealed himself after we fled to the upper floor of the mansion. He had covered himself with a white sheet to pass as a ghost. His other mates soon came out of hiding, and after a lengthy stream of mockery, insults, and, ultimately, laughter, we started to clear the premises. Did I mention the house was unfinished? As we were moving out of the place, my cousin kept making fun of us, prancing around and covered with that white sheet. The stairs had no railing. The fall broke his spine and he died in the ambulance on the way to Porto. I still do not believe in the supernatural, but that was yet another victim of that place. I passed by again this summer, more than 20 years later. Nothing has changed. The mansion remains unfinished. 3. On holiday with my then girlfriend, we rented a cozy Airbnb close to the city center, but weird stuff happened to me throughout our stay. The lights on the staircase would go out while I was in the middle of going down them. The heated water wouldn't work when I took a shower. The back door jammed, keeping me out when I took out the trash. One day for lunch, I made us a garden salad with a little fruit from a neighborhood market. I prepared it maybe 30 minutes early to help my girlfriend with the rest of lunch, so I put it in a big salad bowl with a lid in the fridge. As I was preparing the table, she went to the fridge to get the salad, opened the lid and dropped the bowl on the floor. The salad had spoiled, everything now appearing overly ripe and in that weird state between solid and liquid. Up to this point, she had been understandably a little dismissive of my experiences. This got her attention. We still had a couple of nights booked, so while we were both a little freaked out, we changed our plans and directed our efforts to enjoy the city and surrounding area, limiting our time in the Airbnb. That same night, my girlfriend's anxiety ramped up. She was no longer comfortable there and found a modest accommodation a few blocks from where we were staying. We were getting out. As we were packing and getting our belongings together, I was organizing our bags by the door while she did another visual sweep of the house before we left. The way she tells it, she had just made it to the bottom of the stairs and was looking at me, kneeling in front of our bags digging around for something, when an automatic air freshener sitting on a shelf opposite where I was kneeling appeared to be pushed off the shelf, hitting me in the head. That validated anything we were thinking without actually saying it. We raced out the door together and didn't look back. 4. A few years ago, I was visiting some friends at the UA campus in Tucson. We had a long visit, and as the night approached midnight, I decided to part ways and walk back to my hotel room. As I was making my way back, a black cat ran in front of my path, making me jump back a bit. I laughed it off and turned my gaze back to the path. That's when I saw the silhouette of a naked woman looking at me several yards away. When I tried to refocus, what I was looking at was a tree facing toward me and it turned back to its original position. This freaked me out. Was that tree really facing me? I thought of turning back around, but I had to tell myself I was just seeing things. I made the choice to just keep walking. As I made my way through the street, it felt like things around me were watching me and were curious about me. It felt like shadows were watching me from houses or hiding across the street. I would sometimes hear a whisper, which would send chills down my spine. I tried not to panic as I made my way back to my room. The atmosphere around me felt like I was in Halloween Town from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Once I reached the hotel, the air shifted back to normal. It was spooky and creepy, but it wasn't as scary as one would think. When I got back to my hotel room, I went to bed, still in awe of what I had just witnessed. Did I really just see what I saw? Was that real? Once morning came, I met up with my friends for breakfast and told them what I had experienced. They poked fun at me, saying I was probably smoking weed or was drunk. After the teasing and giggling stopped, one of my friends told me that Tucson was known to be an outlaw town, meaning a lot of people were killed due to a lack of laws during the early days. He said I most likely saw those spirits still wandering around the city. My other friend proposed the idea that my third eye had opened, and that was why I was able to see them. I don't know, but all I know is what I saw and experienced was very real. I now believe Tucson is a real-life Halloween town. 5. I experienced some minor strangeness in my first house growing up, like nighttime footsteps, disembodied knocks, and objects moving, but none of it felt menacing. The first time I walked upstairs in our next house though, I glanced over to see a woman fall flat through the room at the end of the hall, as if she was skydiving from the ceiling. Just before she disappeared into the floor, she looked up, caught my eye and flashed me a nasty smile. I'd sometimes glimpse something dark and low to the ground scampering past a doorway. It always felt like someone was standing behind me in the kitchen at night. Even my friends avoided sitting with their backs to the kitchen. Once I heard a voice call my name from outside a second-story window when nobody else was home. The worst and weirdest thing was that whenever I took a shower, I absolutely could not shake the image of a woman severed at the waist, dragging her upper torso across the bathroom floor toward me, grinning horribly as she came. It was a race to finish washing up before she could lever herself up and over the edge of the tub. Every single time. It never happened anywhere else. But the first time I showered at my college dorm, I saw some object roll next to my foot from the stall next to mine. I stared at it for a second and was about to kick it back when an arm shot under the partition and grabbed it. I figured whoever was showering next to me had just panicked in the awkwardness of the situation. Then I stepped out of my stall to find, can you guess, that I was all alone in the shower room. 6. Not sure if this is paranormal. When I was 8 or 9, my mom and I went out one evening to buy groceries. A lot of chain snatchings were happening at the time. My mom realized she had forgotten to take off her gold chain and she pointed at it, saying, should we go back home to keep it? It was a big, noticeable one, and we were quite far from home, so she wrapped her chiffon scarf around her neck to hide it. It was layers of scarf, so it would have been a proper struggle for a chain snatcher to reach through and snatch the chain. We did our errands, but on the way back, she noticed the chain was gone. She had an absolute mental breakdown since it was expensive and our family had saved a lot to buy it. We thought it must have fallen through her shirt since there was no way the chain was snatched. She called my dad crying while I went to the bathroom for a quick wee. I found her chain hanging by the shower tap, unharmed. We were scared and thankful at the same time. Absolute confusion. We had no idea how it got there. I still think about it and wonder what happened. 7. Not too sure if this counts as paranormal, but a few things have been following me since I lived in this one apartment. When I was younger, I would constantly hear really loud footsteps outside my door in the middle of the night. I lived with only my mom in a small apartment and my bedroom was extremely far from the apartment hallway. Every time I would hear them, I would go outside and see my mom sleeping in her room. One night, in that same apartment, I woke up in the middle of the night sitting up with my hands behind my back, holding me up. My arms hurt so much that I must have been in that position for a bit. It scared the absolute crap out of me, and I couldn't sleep alone for years after. Now I sometimes fall asleep but wake up extremely quickly with an insane need to start running out of bed, which now scares the crap out of my husband because I'm literally bolting out of bed for no reason. One time, he was coming to bed and I sat up and started screaming, like a blood-curdling scream. I have no recollection of it. I just remember waking up with my husband being terrified. Tell us about your own most unbelievable paranormal experience in the comments.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.